please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we beseech your divine guidance in this meeting. Keep us ever mindful of our obligation. Grant us, dear Lord, wisdom, tolerance, and courage that we may well serve our county and fulfill our trust. Amen.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of January 31st and the minutes of February 3rd.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes. Okay. Next, we have Jeremy Sinko, our sanitary. Oh, I guess we missed that line where we asked you if there's any.
Any public comments?
Any public comment on pending resolutions? Okay, good. Jeremy,
I feel like I nailed it that second time.
you did.
3 resolutions for consideration today. The first is authorizing legal services agreement with Albers and Albers to review and rewrite the sanitary engineer's rules and regulations. The second is authorizing the final adjusting change order for the Medina County North Pump Station renovation project. That is a deduct resolution. And the third is approving the amount of delinquent utility bills for the Medina County Sanitary Engineer and providing for their certification in accordance with sections 6103.02 and 6117.02 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Move to approve the 3 resolutions.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to comment, the update of the sanitary engineers rules and regulations has been about 10 years, so
That is
now's the
correct.
time. Yeah.
Roll.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Holly, Human Resources Director.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you.
On our personnel changes resolution today, we have 5 rate increases, 1 in sanitary, 1 in maintenance, 2 at county home, and 1 in finance, 1 leave of absence in building, 1 resignation, or 2 resignations, 1 in sanitary and 1 in office for older adults, and 2 probationary removals, 1 in maintenance and 1 at office for older adults. Second resolution is amending the table of organization for the IT department and Job and Family Services.
Move to approve the 2 resolutions.
Second. Any discussion? Roll.
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
you.
Next, we have Scott Miller, County Administrator.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have 12 resolutions for today. The first resolution is amending the appropriations. This is through the increase of appropriations. The second resolution is authorizing transfers for the print shop services performed during the month of January. The third resolution is authorizing the purchase of regular unleaded gasoline. The lowest bid was Ports Petroleum at $2.545 per gallon. The fourth resolution is authorizing Medina County Drug Task Force to purchase an additional vehicle at a cost of $25,731. The fifth resolution is approving the transfer of Medina County inventory between various county offices. And the next resolution is declaring Medina County property as excess property and authorizing the sale or disposal of these items. The seventh resolution is authorizing the advertisement for bids. This is for the lease of the farmland in Lafayette Township. This is 28.8 acres out there by the county home. The next resolution is approving an agreement for inmate legal research assistance program. This is at an hourly rate of $50 per hour, not to exceed $9,375. This is for the period of March 1st, 2023 through February of 24. The ninth resolution is approving a contract for the provision of medical services at the Medina County Jail. This is Illyria Mediclinic, LLC, through its physician of Dr. Chuka Anieneki, at a rate of $35,000 annually. The next resolution is the approval of an equitable sharing agreement and certification with the U.S. Department of Justice. This is for the Federal Equitable Sharing Program, where they share the federally forfeited funds, property, and any interest earned thereon. The next resolution is allowing expenses of county officials. And the final resolution is authorizing the payment of bills in the amount of $1,242,108.82.
Move to approve the 12 resolutions.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
And the next resolution is actually for the solid waste district. This is authorizing the solid waste district to enter into an agreement with GPD Group. This is for construction inspection services for the residential campus project. The total cost is $18,750.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you,
good. Thank
Scott.
you.
Next, we have some department updates. Denise Testa, our Planning Services Director.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so for our Planning Commission, I'll start with that. We have our next meeting is March 1st. We currently have 3 items on the agenda, including a text amendment from Homer, a map amendment from Harrisville, and a Liverpool Township replat. So we're looking forward to reviewing those. We actually already have one for April, and that is a York Township text amendment.
Good.
Moving forward into Community Development Block Grant. Okay, our Lodi Fountain repair. And this is our 5th time. I never say never. And our pre-bid meeting is scheduled for today. We had some interest on the 4th try, but no proposals came in, so we are giving it one more try. So I get an A for persistence, I guess. And I'm trying to, we will stay cautiously optimistic with this one. We're continuing with the playground in Lodi, the equipment, so that it will be installed, ready for installation this month or in March. So we're very excited to get that moving. The Montville Township Cobblestone Park Pathway Phase 3, that contract is ready to be signed by the contractor, so that will be moving forward as well. So these are all of our 2020 CDBG. As you know, last week, Colleen signed our grant agreement with the state for our 2022 projects, and we're just waiting for the state to sign it and return to us. But in the meantime, we are moving forward with our environmental reviews and working with our communities to get those moving sooner rather than later. In addition to that, so therefore we think we're a little bit ahead of schedule with the 2022 cycle, which we're very excited about. The second layer of Main Drive in Chippewa, so this is our critical infrastructure in Lafayette Township. That contract was, I believe, awarded to Melway, and we are also working with our county engineer, the township, and the park district, as well as our state liaison, as we may have some additional funding left over to see if there's any additional improvements we can complete before the grant ends in August. We also are working on the ARPA project, which is the continuation of the paving up to the box culvert that was installed. So we're working on that as well. And then the Lodi Village Bridge replacement, that's our 2022 critical infrastructure. We're currently beginning the environmental review for that, as well as submitting the floodplain notice as well. So we're very excited about those projects. I do want to highlight a little bit for you as well as our listeners out there about fair housing. We've currently seen an uptick this month in our fair housing phone calls and requests, and our goal when we receive a fair housing phone call is to really provide quality, just-in-time service. Sometimes it can include a referral to some of our partnering agencies, including Community Legal Aid has been a very strong partner, United Way, Jobs and Family Services, Medina Metropolitan Housing. The Medina Bar Association has also been a great resource for many of our clients, the Office of Older Adults, as well as Veterans Services. So even if it does not fall in the purview of our fair housing compliance or act, we do provide quality service anytime someone calls us, so that our clients can receive services and information that they need in order to move forward with their lives with maybe a landlord-tenant issue. And the same thing with our landlords. If we have landlords that are have questions, they're also welcome to call us as well. In addition to that, we also will be, the subdivision regulations work group will be meeting this month as well. Are there any
Good.
questions? All
Thank
right.
you, Denise.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Laura Toth from Office of Older Adults.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll start by passing it. This is two-sided, so we'll start with the landscape side before moving to the portrait side. There you go. What you have before you is a report with the total service numbers for 2022 for our outreach Title III programs. So these are grant-funded programs through Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging. As you can see, we subsidized 6,982 rides in 2022. That is up from 5,368 in 21. So transit's growing. It's not yet at the pre-pandemic level, which was close to 9,000. So we're getting there, though, little by little. With the change in transit in Wadsworth and the plan for Medina County Transit to move that program, if piloted successfully, to Medina and Brunswick, we're going to see a great increase in number of riders because they can be counted differently. So it's almost like I'll have to start a whole new data set starting from the point that program starts onward. Because we were paying a bulk rate for loop rides, and it was just a bulk rate. It was, I think it's $1,600 a month right now, and anybody can ride. Still, anybody can ride, but we will pay by the person, and that is advantageous to us because then we can build a grant for it. It doesn't come out of our local human services levy money, so that's a good thing. But it is going to change those numbers. And the next column is home delivered meal. We delivered 42,611. That is down from 53,207. That is our bubble from the pandemic that we are coming back down from. And then the third column, which I find the most interesting, is congregate meals. So meals that are eaten either at the Suprema Center in Wadsworth, at our senior center in Medina, or up in Brunswick. That's 5,838. In 2021, it was 1,607. That is a great increase. People are coming out of their homes, they're participating in the centers, and we're really excited about that, to have
It's
those
interesting
numbers.
how much bigger the numbers are in Wadsworth than in Brunswick, considering the population of Brunswick.
Correct. That's due to the success of the restaurant voucher program. So ever since we've had that program in 2013, we have had great numbers in Wadsworth. It's such a popular program. We just haven't been able to replicate that in Medina or Brunswick. In Medina, it wouldn't be advantageous because we couldn't do it currently in our senior center. In Brunswick, it would take people out of the Brunswick rec, which is where all our services are. So there's some boundary, or some barriers, I should say, that we would have to overcome. But it is a very popular program in Wadsworth, as you can see from that Wadsworth number.
So the count on that column is the number, it's the location of the people who came out, but the meals have been served primarily at Suprema
And the Medina Center
Yeah.
and the Brunswick Center,
Gotcha.
correct. So that's where people are coming from, but they're going to those three different locations. If you turn it over, you can see our unduplicated clients. I didn't really start keeping this until Commissioner Hudson, now Judge Hudson, said, "Can you tell me how many people are utilizing the service?" So I do have last year's data and this year's, and I'll say those numbers. So for transit clients, we had 248 clients in 2022, and that was up from 211 in 21. Home delivered meal clients, we had 340. In 2021, as expected, we had 431. Again, that's that bubble of people staying in their home. And we had 205 clients for congregate meals. In 2021, we had 83. So that's a great difference. Also, I have to say that the Wadsworth program didn't start back up till October of 21. So that brought down that number as well. So that's just a little preview of our annual report. So hopefully by next month I will have all of that in hand for you. Any other questions on the numbers?
Any word on your Suprema bid?
That's coming up. To that question, Scott Miller, Jessica Curtis, my kitchen supervisor, and I attended a discussion regarding the Wadsworth RFP for the Suprema Center operations on January 19th. I am thrilled to report that we were awarded that RFP.
Very good. Yeah.
The city of Wadsworth is working on the contract for operations. I thought I'd have it in hand by today, but hopefully it'll come this week. And then, of course, I will submit it to both Scott and our legal. We're setting up budgets and food suppliers. I've worked with HR to add to our table of organization. So we can have that Wadsworth kitchen as another department. We're establishing, funding line items, setting up a vendor license, writing job descriptions, hiring, and 100 other things to get this project off the ground. It's a very large project, but I'm really confident that we'll succeed. And the seniors of Wadsworth and the surrounding area will benefit now and for years to come. So I'm really looking forward to getting this project going. Our goal date is April 4th, and that's a goal. It is movable. As these timelines stretch, especially with things like the contracts, it could get pushed out just a little bit more. We'll have to all go down there.
Yep.
This Thursday, our other big project this year, we have an engineer from our architectural firm coming to the center to do more precise measurements for the next step in our kitchen renovation. I'm hoping for a late spring, early summer start. I really hope it gets off the ground, by mid-year, and that we can get the construction done. I just want to get it finished. And we will have a little bit more accurate idea of what the plans look like today, I believe. We're taking reservations for our AARP tax appointments. Those are being done just at the Medina Library. They are also being done at Suprema, but you'd have to call the Wadsworth Center to schedule those. But we can direct people. We just want people to call who need tax appointments. I encourage seniors to contact us to get their appointments. So if you know of any seniors, please get the word out, because those appointments are filling up really quick. And that's a free service provided by AARP volunteers to do simple tax filings. If they're too complicated, you're probably not going to get the answers you seek through this service. But for so many seniors, they come back year after year because their tax returns are rather simple. Tomorrow is the Brunswick Senior Expo. Our theme is a sock hop, so grab your poodle skirts and roll up your smokes in your sleeve and come join us. It is from 9:30 to 12:30 at the Brunswick Rec Center. So hopefully, I know the commissioners have a table, so I hope to see you guys out there. Valentine's Day is coming up, and we will be celebrating next Tuesday in Brunswick with the Pizza My Heart lunch. Oh, isn't that cute? Which the foundation, the Medina County Senior Adult Foundation, is sponsoring a pizza lunch, so that's next Tuesday. And then on Friday the 17th, we'll have our Valentine's celebration at the Medina Center with entertainment and lunch for $5. Any other questions?
No.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Great stuff.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Hope
so
to
much.
see you tomorrow.
Okay. Next, we have some commissioner resolutions. We have a resolution approving the appointment of the BA Apiary Inspector for Medina County for 2023, and that will be Michael Moan.
Yep. Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes. Okay, and next we have a commissioner's hearing date. Notice for a regular annexation petition. The clerk of the Medina County Commissioners received a petition for a regular annexation on February 1st, 2023 for one parcel of land totaling 5.1207 acres of land from Hinckley Township to the city of Brunswick. A hearing regarding this petition will be held on Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at approximately 10:30 a.m., providing no objections are received between now and then. Okay, next we are open for public comment. Does anybody have any public comment today? Okay, we will now move on to discussion session. Holly, anything? Steven? Jeremy? I do. Yes, what a surprise.
Hey, just wanted to mention, we have a property over at Westfield Road and Garmin where we have a well that we were beginning to develop. This was taking place back in the early 2000s and the early 2010. And as part of our nationwide permit with the Army Corps, we were supposed to do a deed restriction on the property due to some wetlands that were, well, a lot of wetlands on this property. And in our research, we found that the Army Corps did issue the permit, and we got a release on that permit for some other items that we had to fulfill as part of that permit. And however, when doing a research for this deed restriction on the property, our department was supposed to record it, and we never did back in 2010. So in talking with Mike Lyons, he said, well, since if we're not changing the document, the resolution was already passed. He advised on just getting the signatures from the commissioners and also Soil and Water, since they were part of that deed restriction. So I reached out to Eric Hange and got him a revised document. So he's gonna present that to his board on the 15th of February for signatures. Once I get that, I'll just present it to you for signatures, just so we can get that, and then we'll record it to the property as it should have been back into 2010. So that's all I got.
That's good.
Scott, you got anything else? Denise? Jeff? Anybody in the back? Okay, Steve?
Actually, we have two. There's the NOACA memo I wanted to bring up for discussion. We received regarding a safety and security at NOACA meetings. And I know, Aaron, you briefly indicated to me that I guess there was some a number of people there, a number from Medina County apparently, or so I understood. There were about 50 people, according to this memo. And they primarily, I guess, wanted to have an opportunity to talk about the proposed regional climate action plan, where I know there was a public engagement, so to speak, activity in the county where many individuals that have concerns with the climate action plan were not recognized or not able to say anything. And I likewise understand that up at the NOACA board meeting, apparently. I guess since it wasn't part of the agenda, they were shut down. Were not allowed to speak, and so there were some tense words, or some language that occurred there.
I would say my knowledge of any tense words came from the memo that we got last week.
Oh, okay, all right.
So I think it was, and actually a couple of folks who were there in attendance actually are here today. Like any public meeting, and I think we've all been part of public meetings where there's a hot topic issue to be discussed. There were feelings being felt, but I didn't firsthand witness anything happening that was out of line. My only knowledge of that came from the memo that we received last week.
Yeah, and the memo indicates that they're going to not only actuate metal detectors, but also increase the presence of security personnel. And then and I guess as the board president, he filed an incident report with the Anti-Defamation League.
Yeah, that again, my only knowledge of that is from the memo, because it wasn't anything that was relayed to the board firsthand, and it wasn't communicated prior to the memo received last week, which was I think less than a month after the meeting happened.
Are we paying for the security out of our dues?
Well, yeah, I would presume, yeah, any security would be the matter of that.
Yeah.
It kind of sends a bad signal. Number one, I guess there's the frustration of if they're not allowed to speak at that public meeting, are there going to be public meetings where people are able to ask questions and have those concerns recognized regarding this regional climate change action plan? And are they signaling that they don't want people to come to the meetings?
I've got, I guess, two different answers for that, because on the local level, I will say, and I've been working a lot with Bethany Dentler from Economic Development,
right.
and also reached out to a few other resources locally. We might have the Farm Bureau involved and some other folks to have a discussion that takes place here that does invite feedback. Because I think some of you have heard, I know I've heard a lot from folks who attended the previous meeting, the meeting that predated the
one at the Highland
yes,
Library.
the library meetings where they had participants from all over the region. Those were, I think the people in attendance at those felt they didn't have the opportunity to offer their opinions.
Right.
And so Bethany and I have been specifically talking about giving a forum locally for those things to be shared. But I think at the NOACA level, we also have to encourage, that things err on the side of open meetings. I mean, these are public meetings and public discussions. Obviously, decorum needs to be followed.
Sure.
Aside from the tensity that maybe one would expect from a hot issue, I didn't, like I say, firsthand witness anything that was out of line. I'm not saying it did or didn't happen. I just didn't witness it.
I was there for 18 years, and we had a lot of tense issues. I mean, protests about I-71, the widening I-71, and we had 90, and all these other, and some hot issues. I remember a lot of people showing up to the board meetings. I don't remember any of us ever feeling threatened from that we needed to have increased police protection or metal detectors, or even bring in a third party. The Anti-Defamation League, I'm trying to understand is why they would file an incident with them. There was some, I guess if there was some outrage or some in terms of violence or kind of issue or threats made, why wouldn't you bring in the police? Why would you bring this third-party group?
And my recollection is the police
Yeah.
were there,
Okay.
at least from a crowd control standpoint.
Right.
They weren't checking out people as they came in, but they
Uh-huh.
were stationed at the back of the room. There was a capacity issue, so there was an overflow room. So perhaps some of the conduct they're concerned about happened in the overflow room, which would have been the reason why nobody in the boardroom noticed it. But again, that's speculation on my part, but I don't know what was happening in the room where we weren't in, but the room we were in, aside from an exchange of a person who did get on the agenda and was recognized to speak, and some reactions from the crowd along the way. It was.
So you never heard of any anti-Semitic or anti-race?
I did not.
Racist remarks or anything like that? If an individual is threatened, an individual can file, but for a board president to file an incident report raises, I think, the level of seriousness. It's kind of like a signaling.
Yeah.
They're trying to label some people as, unfortunately, I think, trying to label them as being racist or anti-Semitic
and
or hate groups. And frankly, the people I know that have the greatest concerns about this regional climate action plan are not that.
Right, and that's the thing, is when I think it crosses a line, in my opinion, when you cross from dealing with an individual who's out of line and trying to paint an entire group as being out of line just because one individual, and I don't even know if it was one individual, but one individual crosses a line. You don't want to paint the entire group that way.
Right.
And I've heard too, just kind of in passing, because I'm very new to NOACA,
Right.
but of some creative, I'll say, mechanisms they've considered in the past to bring historically underrepresented groups into their meetings, even talking about potentially compensating people for coming to meetings and things like that. On the one hand, I think anything that gets a more diverse set of opinions in the room is a good thing, but I do think that you want that to go in every direction, because there are a lot of different opinions in our region, and I want to err on the side of making sure those are all heard up there.
Right. So do you think there's going to be an opportunity within the board to allow that input? I know locally we're going to, but have you heard whether the staff are intending on opening this up for more public participation rather than this one way?
So it's a great question, and the answers that we got on the climate action plan specifically at that meeting were that nothing is in writing yet. It'll go through the committee process.
Okay, right.
But the public information we've received on it is that it's going to be presented to the board for approval in June. So for something to go from not being reduced to writing to approved in June, again, I'm new to the.
Can that be true?
I'm new to the organization. That seems awfully fast.
Can that be true that it's not in writing? Somebody must have written something down.
Yeah,
They're just not disclosing.
And these are the
Yeah.
questions I'm
Yeah,
requesting answers to, and
Okay.
varying
All right,
degrees
thank
of
you.
success.
Can I say a couple?
Oh,
Please.
yeah, sure. This is discussion, so yeah.
So, I serve on the technical working group for the climate action plan.
Okay.
So we did meet last week, and I did mention to NOACA that we would like to invite them to host a meeting sometime in March. It looks like it might be. I'm still looking for a location and to work with NOACA. So we are looking at scheduling a meeting for them. It was mentioned in the meeting last week that they may push that June approval date back or up. I don't know, further away from June. Maybe, so that was part of the conversation, that there seems to be a lot of questions from a variety of communities. It's not just Medina.
Right.
And they want to give that opportunity for feedback. So,
So is there a draft action plan with initiatives identified?
I mean, the working groups are identifying those right now. I don't believe I've seen a draft, but
Okay.
I mean, I can research that for you
Okay,
and send
all right.
it. But yeah, so we are looking at hosting, and they did seem open to that when I spoke with them about coming down here and actually presenting.
Well, it sounds like, based upon when they were doing the video portion of it, that in a lot of the outlying groups had a number of individuals. So it sounds like something, since you're part of that central advisory group, that'll be recommending they do this elsewhere.
Correct. And I think that the issue, and I believe those all occurred on or around January 10th.
Right, yeah.
And I think the issue was the inability, if they were providing feedback, they were only acknowledging the positive feedback, not the negative feedback.
Right.
But Grace Gallucci did, kind of work through that issue, and the consultant did not acknowledge the negative feedback, but Grace did. So I do think that there is some willingness to listen to all kinds of feedback. at
Well,
least from the
I heard
level.
secondhand that her comments were rather to those that were challenging whether this is needed, that she is implying or indicating very clearly that we'll prove to you that this is needed.
Right.
And
that
so
still
that's not,
remains to be seen.
that doesn't communicate of, like, hey, we're listening. If you've already said,
She
hey, I'm going to
acknowledged
prove it to you
that.
that we're right,
Yeah.
and that's not a good way to start off a public engagement.
No, I would agree with that.
Okay,
But she
all
did
right.
acknowledge it, that, by saying that, but not that that's the ideal way to acknowledge
Okay,
it. But
all right.
But
But,
so
uh,
it sounds like because the plan itself is going to be based on certain analysis that's already been completed.
Yes.
So the stuff that you've been talking about in your technical sessions is probably more oriented around the analysis.
Correct.
But not reducing it to a plan. So what we heard that the plan hasn't been drafted,
Correct.
that's probably
I mean, that's
correct.
still.
This is an analysis of what specifically?
And Green, I mean, there's all sorts of there's like 6 or 7 working groups that are working on the
Okay,
different
all right.
data
Yeah,
sets.
Can we find those on the website?
Yes,
Do they
yes.
have those?
I think
So-
is
Yes.
it eNeo? I don't want to give the wrong website.
Okay.
But I think it's eNeo. I can send it. Maybe
Okay,
we can
good,
get something
Okay.
posted.
So
because-
actually on the website, you can find out what some of those other working groups,
Yes.
what specifically the
And I don't know
analysis.
them off the top of my head.
And this is
but-
supposed to be as an outcome of that analysis.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Because there
All
was
right.
some one of the other pieces of feedback I received from some of the folks who were in attendance, the stakeholders that were engaged
Mm-hmm.
in the process of the surveying that they did
Mm-hmm.
were somewhat, I think the perception is they were kind of hand selected to produce
Right.
a conclusion.
Got it.
And so, because there was public surveying as a component of it,
Right,
which I've
yeah.
seen them raise that quite a bit. But I don't know, the audience that they
Sure.
selected for that was
Sure.
fairly carefully curated, I'll say.
Okay, all right. Might have been bias.
Okay.
That's
Might have
maybe a
been
better word
bias.
for it.
Might have been bias. Okay, got it. Okay, got
All
it.
right, thank you.
All right, then, no, thank you. I appreciate you enlightening us, at least at that level. So certainly something to watch for. And I guess my concern is that, well, I guess we'll see at the next board meetings. Hopefully they are providing a venue for people to participate.
And I'm
Provide
encouraged.
input.
I'm encouraged that timeline isn't set in stone, because I did
Oh,
kind of
it is.
have the sensation, at least in the early discussions, that was we
Mhm.
were marching forward to that date, no matter what happened. And again, if the extra time leads to more public participation,
Sure.
I'm in favor of that.
Well, I guess the question comes down to is why the deadline? Is that a self-imposed?
Right.
Or is there something statutory or something from the feds
Yep.
that are requiring that as part of our overall planning initiative, you have to have something?
Right.
in
I don't believe
place?
that's the case. I think
Okay, well
that's
then,
been
in which
the
case
target.
it's,
Yep.
all right. Well, thank you. I can go to the next item? Okay, sure, I know I'm hogging up the agenda. I did put in the, share with you Emergency Management Executive Committee. I know we've had some discussion last year. Aaron was not part of that. But there'd been, the last couple of years, a disagreement as to the representation of the Board of Commissioners on the Executive Committee. And it goes back to a questionable governmental ratification of the resolution that created the EMA Management Agency in 1990. And I know that there's been an attempt over the last 2 years to try to resolve and adopt an all-new, if you will, declare a resolution that clarifies those issues of representations and so forth. And I know in my conversation, and I was working its way through EMA, and I met with Dennis Hanwell a couple weeks ago, and he had asked specifically about this, and he was trying to understand the commissioner's position. And I have a feeling that even with all the discussion at the EMA level, it's not going to the governing people. The people that govern are actually the legislative and the executive, the mayors and the councils and township trustees and so forth that basically are the governing authority for the organization. So I wanted to put together a letter that is, I think, hopefully provides a little bit of the historical context, as well as our position as a Board of Commissioners, where we are on this update of the resolution. So I have in your packet the one version that does specifically have Scott and I met with Mike Lyons yesterday to go through, and he tweaked some of the language and so forth of both the letter to the local jurisdictions as well as the resolution. It makes it clear that of that initial board that gets created, that at least in this second, when that core executive committee is created, that of those 5 additional members, that at least there will be a second county commissioner appointed, and that also a non-elected official that's acceptable to the Board of Commissioners, much in keeping with what the 1990 resolution and what we've actually historically gone along with. And I provided, and thanks to Rhonda for doing all the research and putting together, have the whole list of who the commissioners that have served on this, both as equals. Right now the contention is there's only one commissioner, and the other is either an alternate, but since alternates are not authorized, I know what the status is, and then also the resolutions. And there was a number of years that a second commissioner was not appointed. So, and I know since 22, we've had 2 commissioners appoint, as we historically had before. So this outlines the history of that, as well as, I think, our justification for it is we provide, at the minimum, 40% of the local match. Yep. And it's now this year it's up to 50% of the local match. And we're just saying 2 out of the board seats ought to be county commissioners. It's not that this is not challenging the EMA or the leverage for the dollars, the amount of money that they do, and the great work that they do in terms of coordinating and facilitating these cooperative agreements and taking for emergency planning and all the various activities. But I just think that we had to communicate clearly to the governing structure, the governance, and the communities as to where the commissioners are on this issue. I went to the last EMA meeting. You couldn't make it. The roads were bad. I was able to make it through. And there was a question whether I was even counted as a quorum. And I think we just need to resolve the issue as quickly as we can. And so I ask for your support in sending the letter to the communities. This is the proposed draft of the amended agreement that kind of establishes that. And I know that basically it very clearly identifies that those additional members ought to include a Medina County Commissioner.
And right now we have Scott as our third.
Correct. And in the past, it hadn't been Scott. It hadn't been a county administrator. It was actually Ralph Copley for many years. And apparently, whenever he shifted from being a fire chief to a council member, unfortunately, the rules say, or the bylaws of the agreement had said that it had to be a non-elected member, and he maintained it until we found out that, hey, he couldn't be it. And of course, we also found in the last 2 years that because of an agreement, an attempt to agree with Wayne Township for scuba, a scuba team, that the commissioners are the ones that have to hold title to all property and have to enter into agreements, and likewise when it comes to real property. So the commissioners actually have to hold title and liability for all that. And so I think as that gets discovered, we just need to clean up this from the 1990s. And
Absolutely. I'm in support of the letter.
Okay.
And I appreciated the perspective, the historic perspective that you went into great detail there, which probably should come as no surprise. But it was very helpful to have that. I joke about that, but it was very helpful to read through that. But can you just confirm the proposal that we'd be making?
Right.
Doesn't change anybody who's currently on the board as
No.
it's currently constructed.
Basically, they just have to reorganize, come back together. There would have to be a group that would come together for that core group of 7. And they just kind of just reformat and then appoint the additionals.
So to
and
make-
we're just making it clear that those additionals, one of them's got to be a commissioner.
Right.
It can't be a question.
So to make
Yeah.
make it clear that the commissioners have 2 voting representatives on the
Right,
board,
right.
it doesn't mean somebody else is being pushed off the board. And-
Right. Oh, yeah. Actually,
yeah.
one they had a hard time getting a quorum.
Yeah.
So.
Which I think make all the more reason.
Yeah, I think we need to address it. It was something we tried to address last year. It didn't quite happen, so now's the time, I guess, for that to occur. It just came about when, Bill, who originally was appointed years ago, was told he was an alternate and didn't. It's like, well, if I'm not going to vote, then I'm not going to be there.
Right.
But that was not what the commissioners have always supported. We're 2 equal members. That actually both of us. Both members. And so, because our appointments don't say, when we say there's an alternate, we indicate that they're an alternate.
Yeah.
If we appoint, it's a full appointment. It's equal.
And
And
2
we've got other boards where we're the drug board for McDack, that is our 2 commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
Planning Commission, all 3 of us are appointed. And then in NOACA, I'm an alternate. You're the member.
Right.
So we identify, and we never identified any of these prior seats as one being an alternate and one not. And I guess it's a matter of if their view is one's an alternate, then and there's no provision in the Ohio Revised Code for alternates on this, as the prosecutor has pointed out. Then what are they? And I think if we just make it clear where we're at. I think there needs to be that understanding. Like I said, it's just not getting to the elected members, so I wanted to go straight and go, okay, this is it, this is what we're proposing, and we just basically need to get half the communities to sign on, and okay, and nothing's really going to change. Like I said, a lot of good work that they're doing and initiatives. When you look at the amount of money that they're actually leveraging in state and federal dollars for their programs, it's outstanding. It really is. But we're not trying to undermine that. We're just trying to make sure that certainly that we're equitably represented and recognize that we have a special relationship with the EMA. If we don't approve this, there actually is no emergency management agency. We're the foundation of it under our revised code. If the county EMA did not exist, the jurisdictions would have to come up with their own emergency plans.
It probably undermines a lot of the collaboration and things
Exactly
that are
right.
already going on.
And
down
they
there.
can still collaborate. They
Yeah.
can still develop plans, but
Makes it harder to do that.
and no, like I said, we're not trying. And this letter makes it clear we're not saying that this isn't valuable. Just that, yeah, but we're holding title. We have an unusual responsibility as well as a greater share of the expenses.
Right. That makes perfect sense to me.
So, okay, well, if again, we can go ahead and send this out and
Absolutely.
our 3 signatures. All right, super. All right, and that's all I've got.
Aaron, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, I do. Barb, would you come up and we will talk about your grant recommendation letter?
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good morning.
We have had a request from the Ohio EPA. They are working on a US EPA bipartisan infrastructure grant. Basically, their recycling, education, and outreach proposal focuses on increasing business recycling and education and awareness throughout the state. So what that entails is they're going to partner with 13 solid waste districts, and most of us are in the northeastern part of Ohio, to help develop a toolkit and best management practices for business recycling. And they've got multiple parts to it. The first thing they're going to do is do a desktop study. They're going to identify barriers that's keeping the businesses from actually recycling, finding out which businesses are already recycling and how we can help improve them do that as well. Then they're going to develop a business marketing and outreach campaign for that. And then they're going to start developing a toolkit to assist all 52 solid waste districts in implementing these types of plans with businesses. And they're asking for the commissioner's support in this grant. They hopefully, I guess the grant's due by February 15th, so they're asking for the letters of support for that. And ultimately, we'll be involved in all of this preparation, but we really won't be doing anything. They're going to be doing all of the hard work behind all of this until it's time to actually implement it. And then they're asking us to implement it and then keep the data as far as how many businesses we're gonna get to participate and all of that, so.
All in. Oh, yeah. Good idea.
with the wording of the letter?
Yeah, I just had a question there, and Barbara
discussed
helped
it.
clarify it too, that there was something about fully supporting the concepts and ideals found in the application. The application hasn't been published yet, so maybe we just soften that. Their talking points and everything they're trying to do makes perfect sense to me, but with them not finalizing that, I just was a little bit concerned about fully supporting anything I hadn't seen yet. That was my only
okay.
concern.
Just take the word fully out of there.
Maybe we
and
take
just-
fully out of there because if we
Perfect.
Okay.
support the concepts, that's.
Sure.
I'm fine with taking fully
Sure.
out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
are you
apologize for being
changing
an
letter, or
attorney.
is this, Rhonda already has
Wanda
this?
already has
You want to
it.
say mostly? Never.
Thank you so much. I will sign it and we will get it out.
Thank you, I
All
appreciate
right,
that.
thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay,
I forgot something else, if you don't mind. We had the One Ohio Foundation Region 19 meeting. As you know, Bill represented us on that. That's the 7-county region. We met in Mansfield yesterday. We're forming a technical advisory committee to put together the rubric necessary to evaluate the grant applications that will be coming through and the use of those opioid dollars. They've asked each county for us as members to come up with 2 individuals. I've asked Phil Titterington as well as Stephanie Robinson. They wanted somebody from the board and also somebody, a practitioner, and I think those are 2 good individuals. I've talked to them. They're full on it, and this is not, they're not actually going to do the scoring. They're going to create the methodology and rubric necessary to evaluate the grant applications.
Excellent.
They're talking about grants, One Ohio Foundation, this summer, actually. The due date will be,
Wow.
that soon. The money should be coming, I guess, any month now, and we think that that's rather ambitious schedule, but it's one at least we need to put the committees together.
And be ready for.
And be ready for. So if your approval, I'll go ahead and send them their contact information, and I thank them for being willing to serve in that
Absolutely.
capacity.
Great choice.
Yeah, all
Very
right,
good
good.
choice.
All right, and then executive session?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to move, we go into executive session to consider the compensation and employment of a public employee and the purchase or sale of property.
Second.
Roll?
Hambley?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Sweattick?
Yes. Okay, so we will be heading into executive session. We will not be back on camera. Everybody have a great week. Thank you so much.